Right, there you go. So that's it. Well, welcome everyone to this session. Today we are discussing about the indicators of a healthy ecosystem, and I will quickly just share a bit about who we are as a hub, who's part of the hub, and then we are going to jump into the session itself. So quick introduction, we are the Bristol Hub, and this is our beautiful port team in here. We started with 3 up to 4, and now we have 5 people in the port team, which is great. We are very ambitious and we want to do a lot of things in the Bristol, but also in other parts of the UK with conferences and activities and workshops and so forth. So it's great to have this great cohort or this great core team in here to make this happen. Yeah, my name is Yasmin, and we have here James, Hannah, and Carl, who are also part of the core team. Yeah, so just a bit about the Bristol Hub. We are part of the Systems Innovation Network. We are one of the location hubs in the network. And we are essentially a non-hierarchical, multidisciplinary learning and knowledge exchange hub for systems practitioners, enthusiasts, and curious minds in Bristol and region. And in terms of activities, we support the local community, but also we are part of this global community of hubs in the network. And we try to create partnerships locally, but also globally through online events, in-person events. We go to conferences, we give workshops and so forth. All of that because we have one of the aims of the hub is to raise the systems literacy locally and globally. So we have a learning session set up that we host every Wednesday for us to discuss about ideas on systems thinking and complexity, for example. So we are co-creating the systems innovation hub here in Bristol and having this conversation in a wider level with other hubs as well. So we are doing essentially trying to tackle some of the main challenges that we face today. And for that, we require new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things and collaborating across initiative organizations and build also the individual, understanding the individual capacity and the learning and the language in this area. So these are all the aims of our hub, and our mission is to support and facilitate bridging the gap between this the challenges that we have at the moment and going towards a future that is a lot more collaborative, transformative, and united. So this is what we do, but this is also what the Systems Innovation Network aims to do, is to facilitate this the acquisition of these ideas, this language, let's say, and tackle the complex challenges that we have in a nutshell. That's what we do. And yeah, as I said, we are one of the different hubs in the network. So if you go on the SI network website, you can see all the other location hubs that are spread across the world. But we also in the network have thematic hubs, which are doing the same similar work, but within specific themes and areas of research and practice. So really recommend going to the Systems Innovation Network and check it out because there's a lot, a lot of resources there that you can benefit from. Right. So for today's session, I am going to just quickly share some housekeeping for us to get started. So as I said, this event is being recorded and is going to be available afterwards in our YouTube channel, so you can always come back to it. There is the chat function that is available throughout the whole session. So if you have any comments, questions, just put everything there. They're going to keep an eye on the chat. And I'll kindly ask you to be muted if you're not speaking, just for the audio experience, but please don't hesitate to unmute yourself if you want to comment, or just raise your hand and then unmute yourself as well. Okay. So for today's agenda, this is a bit of the introduction, and I'm going into the context in just a few seconds. Then we're going to some of the principles of healthy innovation ecosystems. Then we're going to jump into the main group discussion for today. And lastly, we're going to wrap up and finish with some next steps and activities that are coming ahead in the Bristol Hub. Okay. Right, so a bit of the context. As I was saying in the beginning, back in February, we did this session that we started the discussion about healthy innovation ecosystems. So there we try to bring a cohort group of people together to put together some of the initiatives they thought were doing some innovation work and more transformative systemic work. And this is the map that we designed together across the different areas, as you can see here, like economy, finance, public sector, tech, and so forth. So we put all of these initiatives here together. Then we had a good discussion about opportunities and challenges that these initiatives offer. So this was in February, and today is a continuation of this event in the same topic of discussion, healthy innovation ecosystems for Bristol. And today we're talking about principles. So what are the principles that really bring these initiatives together, and how we can start to craft what do we mean healthy innovation ecosystem. And this is what we're going to do today. So I will stop sharing my screen for a moment. I will share with you the the mirror boards, a lot of different softwares that we're going to use today. I am going to put here in the chat, and I'm going to share my screen again so we can go to it and start thinking about what are some of the principles that we can start the discussion with. So I will on the screen again. I think some of you are already there. Great, you can see my screen, okay?
Yeah, I can see your screen, Yasmin. Just trying to open the link. It's just taking a little while.
Okay, no worries. So yeah, if you just come here while everyone joins, I will just share with you what is on this map. So here we have the first session that we did in February that you can see all the mirror boards and all the challenge sticky that we put around from the discussion that we had then. So you can add new ones if you feel like something is missing. You can always add your sticky here. But today we are moving to the second bit of this board of this exploration of healthy innovation ecosystems. So here we have 9 principles that we discussed previously as a group that we thought it was important to think about when discussing this topic of healthy innovation ecosystems. What is it? What does it constitute? And what is embedded in such an ecosystem? So here we came up with 9. So I will just quickly read them for you. Collaboration and connectivity here on screen. Then we have diversity and inclusion. Then we have supportive infrastructure. After that, sustainability and long-term thinking. Then market orientation and scalability. After talent development and education, we have strong policy and governance framework, risk tolerance and experimentation. So our aim today is to first, you come here and you think about what these mean to you. So collaboration and connectivity, for example, what does it mean to you? Another one, strong policy and governance framework. Does it make sense when we're talking about healthy innovation ecosystems? So all of the comments that you have, you can just drag one of the stickies from the top left to the center, then click on it twice and start typing some of the comments that you have. Maybe you agree with them, maybe you don't agree. We wanted to leave them very open so we don't bias anyone. So do you agree with these? Do you think they are important? They are crucial to thinking about and developing healthy innovation ecosystems, or you think maybe they're not important? Maybe there is another component that needs to be taken into consideration. So all of these comments that you might have, you can add on the board. And you can see there is a cross and a check as well. So if you see a comment within these boxes that you agree, you just drag the green check to the comment. But if you don't agree, you can drag the cross on top of the comment. And then we can see how this discussion evolves. And then we are going to have an open space for proper discussion. Okay? Does it make sense? Is it clear what we have to do here? Cool.
Yeah, makes sense, Jasmine. I think it might just be one thing to say, which kind of helped me get my head into, was like thinking about what sort of innovation ecosystem we're talking about. And so when we're kind of preparing for the session, we're thinking, well, we're not talking about technical innovation here or business innovation or product innovation. Clearly, we're talking about systems innovation. So we kind of, our interest really is looking at how do these factors or principles relate to a city which has a good opportunity to do like systems innovation work. So what does it need? What needs to be in place? And then we were thinking about how we might describe some of these principles or factors, and what kind of elements they might have. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, feel free. This is kind of a nice small group, so we've got the opportunity here to talk to each other and say what we're thinking now. If there's any, we'll just crack on. We'll put some stuff in and we'll bring it back to a conversation, really.
Yes, awesome, James. Thank you. Is it clear for everyone? Great. So yeah, I will put a timer here. Maybe about 7 minutes just to get an odd number. Why not? And and then I'll come back afterwards to go through some of these stickies, and then we can have a conversation about it. Hannah.
I'm just wondering if Jessica might not be able to get onto this. So I wonder if we could put the headings in the chat, and then maybe she could just put some notes in the chat and we can add them in. I don't know
Sure.
if you're still with us, Jessica. I imagine it's a bit tricky on the train.
Okay. Yeah, no worries, Jessica. Yeah, no worries. I will put here in the chat, and then yeah, you can contribute there, and I can paste back in the mirror board. Okay. No worries.
We even have the nice peaceful music, Yasmin. Like it.
Yes. Calm our mind.
Yeah, calm and nice.
Did you say there's music playing? I can't hear it.
You're missing out, Hannah. Oh, you can't hear it either. Oh, no one can hear them. It's just me and Yasmin listening to the nice music then. Yeah.
I can hear it. If you go under the timer, there should be a little speaker icon. So you can, I think it's on mute by default, so you can unmute it or
Do you feel like we're going to need more than 5 minutes to get on the board?
Music's working, Carl. Thank you.
Malcolm.
Right. Do you think a bit more time to add more thoughts into it? Yeah? Okay. Give you
I think I just really enjoy listening to music, to be honest. I find it very peaceful, like a meditation happening.
Did I put maybe bit half past, maybe 3 more minutes? Would that be good?
That's great. Some really good stuff coming out, I can see already. Very interesting.
I should go through it. Just need to just go out of full screen. Okay. Right. The time is up, but you can always, add more stickies as we go along, because I'm sure there are lots of other points that we're gonna create together that are going to be very important in here. So since there are loads of comments, maybe we can go to James's part, so we can open up the discussion bit, and then we can jump into each one of these sectors and then discuss them further. Would you like that?
Sorry, Yasmin, I couldn't quite hear you there. What was that?
Oh, sorry. Just to go to your part before we jump into the
Go to
discussion.
my part. Oh, and Jessica's even managed to add some stickies, which is very impressive when you're on a train as well. Yeah, you know what, I think actually let's have a whiz around the board first to see what's in there and get a few conversations going. And then I think the part that I was going to talk a bit about was kind of like how we might understand these like in Bristol in reality, and how we might begin to try and embody some of these in our kind of everyday work. And appreciate not everyone's in Bristol, works in Bristol, so maybe thinking about it more about our roles as kind of systems change makers. But let's kind of pause with that thought and just have a bit of a dive into what people have put around these topics. So yeah, some good stuff in it. I can't read it with that. Actually, I could just go onto the mirror board, I suppose, couldn't I? But yeah, does anyone want to jump into it and say what they put in around was it collaboration in communities? Yes, connectivity, collaboration and connectivity. I mean, personally, I was thinking about different types of connectivity initially. So, like, there's a physical connectivity. So, actually, people being able to access things like community resources and traveling around an area. So, that sort of connectivity, and also digital connectivity, right? So, there's real issues with digital exclusion, and something we all sort of heard a lot more about. Yes, sorry, Jessica's going to put transport in there as well, transport infrastructure. Yeah, so transport infrastructure and the connectivity piece, but also the digital side of things. So something we heard more about during the pandemic was digital exclusion, and people not being able to access. Be able to get online for various reasons, either because of they didn't have the technology to do it, or they didn't have the couldn't afford to do it either, and so those kind of challenges arising. So that was kind of where my mind was going with it. But I like this one around protected spaces to collaborate. Who put that in there? Anyone? Protected spaces to collaborate? Who was that?
Yeah, that was
John, would you
me.
like to?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Oh, go and jump in. Yeah.
What I mean, it's a real issue. That I've seen, especially around here, but in a lot of places, that actually having physical spaces to get together is getting really difficult because everywhere's charging commercial rates, which is going up and up and up. And without spaces for people to get together, it really hinders people's ability to work together, to get to know one another, and to
Yeah.
bring that sense of identity. You can do it online, but it's not the same, especially if you're kind of doing it around an area. And it's really eroding and if you it's going to a pub is not for everyone. It's you've got to have these shared spaces, and they're getting taken away. And I think when we talk to local authorities and or else, this is the number one issue certainly in our city, and it needs to be tackled because it's going the wrong direction. Even the parks are getting rented out at the weekends for fairs and stuff. It's like, where do
Yeah.
people get together?
Hmm. Hannah, you got your hand up. Jump in.
But yeah, it was just to add to that point. I think that's very fair, and that was the base of the conversation about the libraries, wasn't it? That's the last indoor space freely available to the public, and they're gone pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about sort of sharing of ideas, isn't there? Sort of a cultural mixing of people and the ability to share ideas, and where does that happen? Yeah, I do worry about that. Not happen, and even if you do go online, it tends to be kind of quite an echo chamber, I think.
Mm.
Generally, people find similar-minded people and talk to each other rather than going back to there's this other point is about diversity and how that's important. But yeah, anyone else want to
Sorry,
make
I
some
think there might
comments?
be an underlying thing about the cost of collaboration and connectivity, how hard it is for people to get over that hurdle, because that acts as a tax on the whole system.
Absolutely. Can't jump in. Feel free just to unmute yourselves, guys, and jump in. We're only a small group, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
No worries. The muting bit is definitely a kind of a self-control bit as well. I just very much agreeing kind of from John Paul's comment about kind of the industrialization almost of our spaces, and the fact that there seems to be an element of, if I can't show there's a return on my investment, then therefore it's undervalued or whatever. But then there's also responsibility for us collectively to be able to try and kind of, protect those spaces as much as possible, rather than kind of rely on others to do so. So that was the only kind of particular comment. But I just noticed that Jess had mentioned about the open data kind of sticky that was on there, and I was just agreeing with her and saying that definitely kind of really like that point, that shared data and understanding of where it's come from. And I think just the whole open data kind of aspect to especially kind of developing new work and priorities, etc., and everybody understanding how to kind of access that and then shape their work, especially new and emergent work around that, is quite important. Then obviously then kind of data literacy comes with that, and how we educate people in being able to understand and analyze, and not misinterpret things. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Carl. If anyone can hear any kids shouting in the background, I apologise. My son's got some friends around. But interesting. I mean, I know Bristol's done like some open data projects, and absolutely, Carl, there's a huge need to also be sort of facilitating that engagement with the data, and kind of doing it in the right way. I think until the right sort of tools are developed, I suppose, that people can access data and utilize it for public goods, then we sort of need that interface. Just say hello to VJ quickly. Hi, VJ. Thanks for joining us. Okay, great. So anything else on the collaboration and connectivity piece, or should we move around, choose another board to have a look at?
I was just less interested in the kind of infrastructure, more on the relational part of it. So that need for it to be really well facilitated. So I also did put on there on communication channels, but when you come together, having that work where it's not just straight to business, but forming relationships and strengthening bonds, and having that really well kind of facilitated before you kind of get into any collaborations. Quite often in an ecosystem, it's individuals, but then when you're trying to do something a bit more professional, you're going to sort of bring teams together. So that really needs to be considered.
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of getting towards a bit what we were planning to talk a bit about was like, what do we mean by systems innovation as well? So it's not just that we put some new technology in there and we expect that to have some results. That's not kind of what we're advocating at this part. It's more about the sort of the leadership and the the space needs to be created for new emergent innovation to appear. It's not that we're just we could expect certain results if we put some infrastructure in place. So yeah, Hannah, I absolutely agree with you. And that sort of facilitation piece, or the collaboration piece, needs to be done and probably in the right way as well. And those things are difficult to measure, right? Everyone wants to know if there's a spend on something or resource provided for something, what's the output going to be? How do we measure the success? And again, that's something for us to think about. Really, is if we're trying to advocate for systems innovation, systems change, how do we do that well? Certainly, there's the sort of long-term perspective to take. But yeah, how do we kind of square that circle a bit? I noticed in another part, someone had put something around coaches. I think I can't remember exactly what it was. It was to the right-hand side down there somewhere, I think. Someone put around coaches. Let me try and see where it was.
It was me, James, and I put it into the supportive infrastructure panel.
Coaching circles, was it that bit? Was it
So
coaching
just to,
circles, Carl?
yeah. So I just kind of put it down there. It's just about kind of like, yeah, how do you create that space for kind of development and kind of personal support as well. That was kind of where I was coming from with that. We also appreciate that infrastructure probably possibly means different things for different people. But yeah, I thought that kind of that personal element of kind of being together and sharing and kind of co-developing our understanding and knowledge of things, and obviously kind of yeah driving things forward, I suppose. But it kind of ties in quite nicely with what we were saying before about sometimes collaboration and connectivity isn't necessarily about being productive or having an output. I appreciate that for some people, maybe that is the goal with it, but actually just being together in and of itself is a real value of empathy and understanding, and that in itself can help you feel more comfortable, more confident to be in your city, and be out and about and enjoying it, and a kind of a thriving community and culture. I think that of that is then kind of building those relationships, and I think that's kind of with that coaching circle. That's where I was coming from with that. Is it's very much about how do you then turn it into something which does become productive through kind of supportive infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I think the majority of the notes on here are about social infrastructure and the kind of the cultural piece. There's a thing here about multi-purpose infrastructure and single purpose. Who put that, and what does that bit mean?
That was me, and I've seen it quite regularly around here. What happens is that people do business cases or project plans or get it through the funding process, and to do that, they have to define everything as narrowly as possible. And what we end up is with infrastructure and places that are just for one specific purpose, for one specific group. And actually, when you look at what communities need, they need multi-purpose infrastructure that can be used for a lot of different things. And we don't do business cases for those. We do it for single purpose. And I think and what happens is the space gets walled off, or the infrastructure gets only access to certain groups of people and other people can't access it. And I think that is it comes from this business case process, and it's something that, it goes with the agile methodology. We got to have this attitude of how can we adapt things rather than everything has to fit into this narrow funding stream.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an interesting prompt I was going to sort of bring in a bit later, but there's this sort of difference between transactional relationships and then, well, relational relationships. I guess transactional business cases, modes of working, and then relational ones, right? And there's a big focus, isn't there, on what am I getting, what's the bang for the buck, even from many well-meaning funders out there. Whereas actually, when we're trying to do something around changing the system paradigms and do long-term cultural shifts and cultural change, you're not going to see that. You kind of need to take more of a leap into the unknown, that you're kind of laying the right foundations for something positive to evolve.
Yeah, and we see it in the NHS where, it becomes about performance managing. And when you get performance management, you just lock in the existing system. You cannot change when there's performance management in place.
Yeah. Oh, it really infuriates me when I see management consultants swarming over the NHS and trying to make each process 1% more efficient or something. And just drives me bonkers. But yeah, very good. Thanks, John Paul. Any other comments people want to add to this one, or we can move round to there is one top left around funding, I think. So maybe it's going to be quite a contentious subject. So it'd be quite good to have a look over at that one. Access to funding and resources. Anyone want to kick us off with thoughts on this? Like participatory grant making. Has anyone seen any good examples of that? Who was that? Can't see.
That was me.
Go on, Hannah.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm not doing my work account. Trying to think of the name of the funds that I've seen, but from what I've heard, I mean, it just sounds like, money is held in one pot, and then you have a good a group of the stakeholders making the decisions about where it goes, as opposed to like someone with power who's holding the money. Like you keep going cap in hand to like, I don't know, a bank to get some money under their sort of social enterprise scheme or something like that. And then it's not the people who are actually affected making the decisions. I'll try and find some good examples and share them back. But it's just
great.
like a good way. I've also heard of like innovation networks where they do similar things. I mean, they're very single. They're almost trying to tackle the same problem, which maybe in an innovation ecosystem you might have more disparate kind of values and goals. And possibly there could be something that SI, for example, could do under that vein.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to if you could share some examples. I think there's a few coming here that maybe Jessica knows about, and I expect Hannah might know a few as well. Sorry, the other Hannah. I think one of the things we're keen to do is sort of capture a few of these examples so we can try and share some best practice and share some good case studies as well. But yeah, I think Hannah, do you want to chip in at this point?
One example, I really like that, Hannah, because one example I came across a while back was where a project did a calculation about how much we spend on people with complex needs over the course of a year, and then the project was we just gave them the money and they had a broker, and people could just choose how to spend the money. And I mean, it worked for some people. It wasn't a terrible idea. It had a better success rate than normal services. Yeah.
Sounds good. I have a real issue of how much energy goes into like bidding for money as well. Crazy, isn't it, when you think about the success rate?
We're doing
barriers in that way.
I know, Hannah Mahoney, you've kind of challenged us before thinking about, people think that the big problem is not enough funding to do this work, but I know you kind of pushed us before and sort of suggested, well, does there need to be? What funding does need to be? What can we do without funding? Do you have further thoughts on that?
I mean, just that really. I mean, we're all here by choice. We can connect with other people by choice. We can create space and learn. Education's basically free because of the internet, if we want it to be. And I think that there's a very patriarchal feel to the grant process and begging bowl process, and that if I could throw in some examples, but there's so many examples across the world of the most extremely impoverished areas coming up with the most sublime innovation without any resources, just with a bit of gumption, and I think we should just embody that. And that doesn't mean that I'm ignorant of the fact that money makes things happen. I know that too, but we can try and find money and we can get on with things as well. But my experience of the voluntary sector is a huge population of it just can't get beyond that idea of like needing more money or replacing money all the time. And also it brings like this weird sense of grief all the time because it's constantly changing, we're constantly losing, and then it's almost like a trauma cycle that doesn't breed innovation. It breeds people getting stuck,
Absolutely. There's a very interesting thing about if you scroll down a bit, Yasmin, there's all those individuals with power, control, understanding the interconnectedness of their decisions and unintended consequences, basically. Who's B Regen? Who's that? Oh, sorry, Hannah. Okay, great. Do you want to say a little bit more about that? Because I mean, I think it's interesting. I think we're certainly in my mind, I'm beginning to think a bit more about our roles as change makers and how we might try and make a kind of positive contribution to the systems innovation ecosystem of the place in which we live. So there's something about probably almost like an education piece. Would you describe that as that? There's a mindset shift in terms of those individuals in power, or is it are you thinking of a revolution? Hannah, sorry, I don't know if you heard that yet.
Is that me or other Hannah?
Other Hannah, yeah.
No, I didn't put that on there.
Oh, you did put that on there.
No, I was just clicking on the card, but
Oh, sorry.
He's got his hand up.
Who's going to own up to putting that one up there? Is that John?
Which one was it, James, that you're
It was
speaking about?
the individual, the power of individuals and the sort of understanding of the interconnectedness bit. This one down here.
Mm.
I didn't put that, but I would like to comment on
Yeah,
it.
go for it, John. Jessica,
I see that quite a lot, and a lot of it seems to be that people making decisions are embedded in the environment where the consequences of those decisions are felt. And when they are, they have they feel the need and they can respond. But when it's over in some office somewhere, someone look at a spreadsheet, that disconnect is real, and it's hard to they disown the consequences. And I think there is something about, empowering people who are in the situation to respond to that situation and see the consequences and be able to escalate if things are going wrong, rather than this assumption that the people in control should know and are know. It's like we have to be embedded in it. It's like, that's for me is a fundamental principle.
Yeah. Good stuff. Jessica's been very productive on the train, I can see. There's lots of good stuff coming in the chat as well, so thank you, Jessica. Yeah, anyone else want to share some thoughts on this this one?
It looks like that comment was Jessica's, by the way, James. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, or any of the other ones, really. I'm kind of interested in, what people are doing in their sort of day-to-day roles as well, and if there's any good sort of stories or examples of where, there's been a struggle to really kind of, aim towards some more sort of systems change, openness, collaboration, more testing of innovation in your roles, and whether you've come up against any challenges in that place, or you've had any sort of experience of achieving something as well, which you'd like to share. Hannah, if you want to go ahead.
well, yeah, it's kind of following on from the points that were just made, and reflecting on it. I definitely sort of charge about getting on with things regardless of money. And what I find is some of that drops away because it wasn't going to land, but it was worth a try. And some of it attracts money without the need for all the grants. Some people will fund things that are the right thing at the right time. And then you do end up getting out of that cycle. It's very much my experience.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. We had a few other examples when we were speaking kind of in preparation for this session, which was one of our colleagues sort of talking about, working within a government department, but trying to encourage their colleagues to think more systemically and longer term about, change and programs they were running and the activities they were supporting. And actually, their feedback was that that taken years to achieve. That they only recently be able to sort of get some traction and alignment with that kind of way of thinking, and it's taking a long time. So yeah, I don't know. It's there's potentially positive changes. We all kind of have a better understanding, I think, of systems change and systems innovation now. It seems to be more of a known about topic. But and there are potentially positive signs, you could say, with national government as well, talking about kind of mission driven policies and programs and things like that. I don't want to get too much into politics, but perhaps a longer term view on things. VJ, would you like to chip in?
I was going to say that change is hard for a lot of people, and even when working in the tech sector, I see change is hard for people that are at the front of change. So for people who work in government sectors or sectors that probably historically haven't moved at pace, I can understand that that's an even bigger struggle. I was also going to add that the whole system thinking thing that, you said that someone said it takes a long time. Well, yes, it takes a long time because system thinking comes with experience and, those lived experiences to understand, and when I say lived experiences, that doesn't necessarily mean, your own things that are happening in your personal life. It may be experiences that you found in the workplace, certain projects that have gone well or not well, whatever it is. But it is that collective experience over years. I wouldn't expect, if I had a junior join my team, I would not expect them to pick up systems thinking within 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18, maybe 24. But that is always going to be a challenge. I think it's important to be cognizant of that fact. If you're trying to instill change, it's understand the psychology behind what does it take for someone to change. And in my experience, it's been more on the sort of shock side of things. Someone's shocked into changing, or the change has such profound effects that they have no choice but to accept it. Like mobile phones, right? There was a time no one was using mobile phones. Everyone started using mobile phones. That was a big change societally. Yet you didn't have that many people sort of challenging the idea. It happened. So, there are a lot of examples that you can take from history to understand how change happens. But on a large scale, that's a significant undertaking. That's a big elephant to eat.
Yeah, it just reminds me there's, in the course of my career, I've done a lot around facilitation and kind of holding that space. And I think another element someone put in here was about safe spaces as well. And I think John Paul's mentioned it, in terms of, community spaces as well. So how do we kind of create the right environments which are, safe, but also have the conditions for experimentation to happen? People to sort of try things out. Yeah. Any thoughts on that at all? I see Yasmin's typing notes. I think one of the things, and Jessica, thank you so much for putting some notes. And let's read some of Jessica's notes. Maybe that might be fair, mightn't it? She's doing valiant effort on the train there. So she says I'm using health a lot, but it's definitely not just health/healthcare NHS thing for sure. Something people have worked for in banking forever, any sector. Experience in a single sector is often valued when it comes to recruiting higher authority jobs. Absolutely. Must have 10 years experience, etc. So yeah, you get people who are specialized and in their silos and without that broad view. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Okay. I think one thing we wanted to almost sort of bring us towards in terms of this session was just being a bit reflective in terms of like what we might do or how we might act a bit differently in our sort of day-to-day lives in terms of trying to embody some of this stuff. So we've kind of come up with some good examples of the principles and looking at what the factors are. Hannah's got to go. Great. Thanks, Hannah. Is there any thoughts on maybe how we do behave, how we do act, or what we might do differently going forwards, or how we might try to influence others around some of this stuff? I wonder if there's any thoughts from people at this stage.
It's difficult, James. I mean, from my personal point of view, is that there are things that we can really control our own actions, our own collective kind of agreements, I suppose. And I know that we've spoken, or I've certainly shared as a group about kind of like manifestos and that kind of thing, of just like these guiding principles of saying these are the values and principles that we hold ourselves to, and and how do we capture that and how do we measure it, and yeah, I suppose holding each other accountable to those things. I think the whole be the change you want to see is kind of a crucial thing here. So yeah, so I think, but in terms of that kind of, if we're saying that we want to, that part of a healthy innovation ecosystem is to be collaborative, is to be open, to be kind of transparent, and then that's we need to hold ourselves to those things and show others that this is the way that things could be or should be done. So I think there's definitely a bit of kind of practicing what we preach is certainly kind of crucial in terms of our own actions, our own our own behaviours.
Absolutely. I mean, Carl, you've got a lot of experience, working with Leicester as well, right? And loved when I first met Carl. He'd been doing some work on a sort of a city level innovation manifesto for Leicester, and it was such a great concept, really, about, and something we're sort of straying into a bit now, really. I think in terms of how do we promote some of these principles? So whether it's looking at trying to encourage people to think less with less transactional nature when they're putting together the public sector programs, or encouraging them to hold the space for something unknown to happen with an inclusive and diverse sort of community-led audience. Sometimes this does happen, sometimes it doesn't. And so so it's interesting to think about, maybe what some of the things missing or we can advocate for, in Bristol. And I think Jessica was putting quite a few good examples around, stuff which we're seeing happening already. And certainly, we've done the previous session, which was sort of mapping out some of the systems level actors within Bristol and understanding a bit more about what they're doing. So as a hub, one of the things we're thinking about doing is trying to engage more with some of these sort of systems change actors within Bristol, and understanding a bit more about what they're doing and what their sort of good case studies are from them. So we're certainly looking to build some of those and advocate for good change. But John Paul, please go ahead.
This is kind of, I suppose, hard-won experience about, kind of embodying the principles, and it's kind of being humble and having some humility. People, it's not about perfection and about being right. It's actually saying, this is what I think, and giving space for other people to go, oh, you're wrong, or I don't agree. And that inviting people into that space so that it becomes a collaborative leadership, and it isn't just about me or the leader. Obviously, I have to try and represent those values and role model as best I can, but it shouldn't be me judging or dictating other people. It's inviting people, saying, this is what we're trying to do, and let's do this together.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all different style of leadership, really. Jessica's giving some good praise in the chat. She's saying, where is it? Missed it. John Paul, I like that. Fall into the trap of thinking collaboration equals agreement. Yeah. So maybe being a bit more conscious, of what actual true collaboration is, and just sort of reflecting on that ourselves a little bit, and how, whether we are acting inclusively or not, and not just sort of paying lip service to some of that, but really actually taking the time to pause, or being properly kind of inclusive and reflective. It's something I probably need to learn about a bit more myself. But Hannah, I know you've got quite a bit of experience in that, or you might want to be saying something else. So please go ahead.
I keep putting my hand down instead of unmuting myself. It's too late in the day. Just a reflection on something right now that I'm dealing with in relation to this. So I definitely ascribe to the being humble stuff, and trying to practice that, and modeling rather than telling, I think, is really important. It's a great way to just slowly bring people along. But I am struggling at the moment because, as an example, I'm working with someone who works for a big organization who doesn't like me very much, because I'm always like advocating for the little guys and talking about how important diversity in the sector is, and this kind of stuff, and that kind of like doesn't chime with their narrative of like, why don't we just do it all because we're great? And so there's like, how do we maintain like this humble zen, like I'll just move through the world and like model it, when there's people like that who just kind of need like moving aside a bit. So, and I wouldn't do anything aggressive, obviously, ever, but it's a challenge, right? Carl, I think you've experienced this too by your face.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And sometimes, like you said, is that you just want them to move out of the way. But yeah, it's difficult, especially around kind of business and around organizational kind of change and development, is that, so there's so many kind of conflicting voices, and having to kind of sometimes try to compromise, and other times just move on from it and just ignore those old voices, or legacy voices, and hope for for new kind of emergent voice being embraced. But
yeah. I'll just chip in quickly and I'll let you go over to John Paul. But just to say, it's one of the things I worked in Bristol to set up a group for people who worked in innovation, and it was really interesting because what it turned out that people who joined that group, it turned out that lots of people in that group felt very isolated because they were always the troublemakers, they were the change makers, they were the people trying to think differently or kind of go against the grain, and they actually really valued finding a group of other people who felt a bit outcast at times or a bit, kind of on the edge. So yeah, I mean, in a similar situation here, I think having a kind of community hub like the SI Bristol hub is really a good place that we can come and share some of these sort of war stories and kind of support each other in certain ways. But yeah, John Paul, over to you.
Yeah, I got this story from marketing. Basically, like the idea is that if you have a perfect advert, the client won't like it because it's too perfect. They have to find fault. They don't see themselves in it. But if you leave a hairy arm in the advert, they'll go, "Oh, look, there's a hairy arm," and they feel they've contributed and they feel that they own it. And I think there's an element of you have to give people the scope to actually feel that they're being listened to and valued in anything we do. If we produce perfect work, we're almost excluding people from it. And so I think sometimes we just have to be happy that we're setting the conversation or moving things in the right direction. We may be getting 70% of what we want rather than 100%, because that 30% gives us the buy-in that people feel that they're involved and feel they've been listened to and heard. Even if you think this is flipping stupid, why are we talking about this? That is sometimes the one thing you need to get people over the line and involved. Otherwise, they'll see it as being done to them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some real skills involved, isn't there? That skill of collaborative design, facilitation, communication skills. All these things are super important when you're trying to do this work, and it just makes me think that probably, I'm sure there was something around education on the board previously, and I've really enjoyed some opportunities I've had in my career to work with like younger people to bring kind of innovation skills to them, which are some of those skills. And yeah, maybe that's something we can get a bit more involved in as a hub, as well as looking at how do we translate some of these systems change skills into like a younger generation so that we can kind of embed it at different levels. Fantastic. What we might do, I think, is if we're very happy to kind of open up, everyone come off mute and chip in if they would like, or make some comments. I think what we might do is we might begin to move towards a bit of a wrap up, I think, and sort of look at what we're doing next as a hub, unless anyone else would like to kind of follow another thread of the conversation here. Okay. Cool. Vijay's come off mute, I can see, but maybe that's just because I said, yeah.
I was just going to add one thing here. I mean, there's a lot on this board. It's a big old elephant, and so what do they say? If you want to eat an elephant, how do you do it? One small piece at a time. So maybe the trick is here to say there's one small piece that everyone kind of agrees that should be tackled first, and maybe use that as a showcase. If sometimes convincing others is simply to show something amazing that you've done, and maybe just put the energy into that one small thing, make it amazing, and then show the world what you've done with it, and then that you would hope start unlocking some doors. People will start sitting up and listening.
Yeah, very sage advice, Vijay. I thought you were going to say one small step for man, one giant leap.
I'll say that when I get on that rocket ship to leave the planet.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, look, it's really enjoyed the discussion, and there's lots of there to unpick, and we keep these mirror boards open, so now everyone's got the link. I would think it would be free to access. Well, obviously free to access, but easy to access. If you wanted to continue to put anything else on there, but we'll move to a bit of a wrap up. I think it's over to Carl now. I don't know if it's a bit of a summary on the session today, and then look ahead as well. Really, thanks very much.
Wonderful. Thanks, James. Yeah, I think it's been a really fascinating discussion. And when we were talking about kind of the collaboration and connectivity there, I was thinking we could spend an hour just diving into that one kind of principle. Glad we didn't. I'm glad we kind of moved on and kind of opened it up a little bit. And I definitely kind of resonate with VJ's kind of comment and yourself, James, as like thinking, well, what is it that we do and where are we currently in this? Because if we think about we're trying to kind of influence the whole of that map and the whole of that space, feel quite overwhelming. So, you know, what's our individual role, but also through our work and through our connections, you know, what are those things that we're influencing, and obviously being cognizant of those other principles as well. And like I said, it's just how do we embody them as much as possible and feed them into our conversations. And this isn't an overnight thing, you know, is that there's some great examples already there in the city that we can showcase, but also where is there a paucity? Where is there a trend where we're actually starting to move away from some of these principles? We've spoken about kind of you know, kind of shared spaces and protecting those spaces for people to come together. You know, if the trend is kind of negative, how do we start to reverse some of those things? I think that certainly kind of ongoing conversations is to link back to some of these topics and how we're addressing those ongoing. So do both. So Yasmin, are you okay to share your screen and jump back into the presentation? Thank you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to other conversations. And if anybody wants to follow up on the conversation today and wants to kind of pick, my brain's probably not the wisest one. Maybe pick James or Yasmin or Hannah or Ned. We'll nominate Ned. He's not here, so we'll make sure that Ned gets involved as well. But no, you are more than welcome to kind of reach out to any of us as a team to kind of dive deeper into some of these topics today. So do follow up. We do have some other activities coming up as well. So as the follow-up to this series, so obviously we did the mapping exercise back in February. Today we've kind of started to unpack some of those things and think about kind of the principles of that ecosystem within the innovation space in the city. The third exercise in our series takes place in September. So you've got a few months to kind of digest some of this information and add to it. And we'll be thinking about kind of the future of the healthy innovation ecosystem for Bristol. So starting to think ahead, not the as is, but what is it that we can develop for the future, embedded in those principles into our work. We also have kind of the cultivators and ongoing exercise. Is we're looking for 2 more people to join us. We already have a small group ready to go. So we're looking for 2 other people to join us in the cultivator. And that is, if you've got an idea, if you've got a early kind of nascent project that you want to try and explore and bring to life, then that's what the cultivator space is for. We work as a small group in the pilot to kind of explore systems thinking as you're developing new projects to bring to life in the city. And also every Wednesday, I think that Yasmin spoke about this at the beginning of the call, every Wednesday at midday UK time, and we have kind of an open discussion where we'll kind of unpack a particular theme and dive a little bit deeper around it. So please do come along, and it's really informal, really open, and we just sit around and we have a good chat. So it's always a good way to kind of get over hump day in the middle of the week. Some interviews we've got lined up as well. So you may have joined us previously for some book launches or discussions that Yasmin has hosted through the Bristol Hub on behalf of the wider Systems Innovation Network. And we have 2 others coming up. Actually, next month, I think it's probably another 3 weeks away. We have the wonderful Adam Kahane coming to join us and talking to us about his new book, Everyday Habits for Transforming Systems. If you are unaware of Adam's work, please do check him out on LinkedIn, and you'll see how embedded he is in this systems development space. He'll be a fascinating person to kind of connect with and talk to on Thursday, the June 19th. And also back in September, we have another is it another book launch, Yasmin? There is a Create Your Systems Toolkit, a discussion with the author of a new book that is coming in September time. And then we've also got some socials to kind of keep everybody's kind of coming together and connecting and collaborating. On Friday, the 20th of June, we will be doing our second networking. The first network went down really well, so we're really looking forward to kind of bringing some people together to take a little bit of a wander as we connect and chat. And that's taking place on the morning of Friday the 20th from 10 a.m. And in the afternoon, we're going to do social, slight difference. We're going to be playing some systems games together. Again, totally fun, totally open, totally relaxed. But we're going to kind of have a little bit of a play. So do look out for some more information about how you can join the Systems Playbox on Friday, 20th of June in the afternoon. And more details to come on that one. And then the following month, on Thursday, 17th of July, we'll have our food and drink evening from 6:30 somewhere in town. Venue to be confirmed, but yeah, do keep a follow out on our social media and also the Systems Innovation Bristol Hub space, which if Yasmin clicks onto the next slide, there is a QR code which will take you directly to that space. And yeah, you can kind of keep abreast of any information and any kind of details of new events as we kind of release details. And obviously, if you're not kind of connected to us on LinkedIn, we'll also post there any new information. So do give us a follow there too. And that is it from me. I will hand back to the team just to see if there's anybody else that wants to chip in. I might have forgotten something.
No, it was great. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. I think it was very good discussion, and yeah, we'll continue updating you on the next events and what's coming up in the Bristol Hub. So I put the links here in the chat, the Bristol Hub website in the Systems Innovation Network, but also our LinkedIn where we post most days what's going on. And yeah, join us for our next activities and our next socials and events. It's going to be great to have you there. Cool.
Great to see you all.
Nice to see
Thanks for
everyone.
joining. Yeah.
Have a good
Catch up
evening.
soon.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye bye. That was great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.